Hi, my name is James Borgwart. I serve as a pastor at Redeemer in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. And I was given the privilege to write a series of articles for Forward in Christ magazine on the intersection of faith and science. And as an intro to those articles in the January through June editions, I should let you know that I have virtually no expertise in scientific research, never even taught one class of science in a classroom. For those of you who didn't turn me off right away and are still watching, that's part of the point. There are very few of us, and I'm not one of them, that could step into a scientific laboratory and speak with any sort of authority for or against modern scientific modeling. We got to be careful we don't step beyond what we're capable of addressing. But I think all of us are capable to take a step back and look at the foundation upon which science itself is built by understanding a little bit of the history of science, the philosophy of science, and more than anything, the limitations of science. As Lutheran Christians, we walk that narrow Lutheran middle road. We receive science with great thanksgiving to God as a gift to us, as a tool through which we can bless our fellow man and love our fellow man. But we're wary and very skeptical when people will take this gift of God and elevate it to a place of adoration, turning itself into a god or a religion that supposedly can tell us and be the final arbiter of truth about what is, what was, and what ought to be. During World War II, C.S. Lewis wrote a book called The Abolition of Man, where he warned against this existential threat, not of communism or of fascism, but of scientism. And far earlier, the Apostle Paul warned us in Colossians chapter 2 to not let anyone take you captive according to some hollow and deceptive philosophy. Scientism is embedded in our culture today, and it is a hollow and deceptive philosophy. But don't misunderstand this, not to be confused with science itself, a wonderful gift which can tell us a great deal about what is in God's created world. But it can't tell us everything. As powerful as it is nearsighted. Apologist John Lennox gives a great illustration that I'll share with you, where he talks about the limitations of science. He talks about Aunt Matilda's cake. She bakes this cake, and we could invite all sorts of world-class scientists in to answer all sorts of questions about that cake. A biochemist could tell us about the structure of the proteins and the fats and so on within that cake. Chemists could tell us about the elements involved. Physicists could tell us about the fundamental particles there, and a mathematician would love to give us an elegant equation regarding how those particles interact with one another. They can tell us how the cake was made and what the cake is made of, but they can't tell us why it was made. You'd have to turn to Aunt Matilda to understand the purpose behind that cake. It was made and baked for her nephew's birthday. So science can answer some things, but it can't answer everything, even about what is. And it's certainly limited in telling us about what was. We should be concerned when a lot of people today will trust more a scientist and what he tells us about prehistoric man than what a historian will tell us about great people of history like Napoleon or Julius Caesar or Jesus of Nazareth. We have to discern between what's even true within evolutionary theory, where natural selection has some truth in it, that we can see things, we can observe things as they do evolve over a shorter period of time of thousands of years. That's accurate. But for people to take and extrapolate from that natural selection in a short period of time to millions of years and say that we evolved from molecules to man, well, we know that that's not true because it's not observed. And of course, God tells us otherwise. And we got to be wary of, too, of what we hear today or what we will be hearing about what we ought to do according to science. Science cannot tell us what should be. It can only tell us a little bit about what is. So we as Christians, of course, we have a higher authority, the one who is and who was and who is to come, the one who is the same yesterday and today and forever. And in Jesus, we follow him in everything as our final authority, as our final arbiter of truth. Because as he told Pontius Pilate, everyone who is on the side of truth listens to him. So God's blessings to you if you read those articles to talk about the intersection between our Christian faith and a wonderful gift that God gives us in science, but keeping it in its servant's role where it belongs. And if you'd like to take a deeper dive into these things, you can go to the Lutheran Science Institute at lutheranscience.org and read a number of articles that some really brilliant people, Mark Bergman and others, have written about this intersection between faith and science for us Christians. God bless.